What's up, guys? I hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are. The smoke has cleared a little bit here, so it's nice to breathe a little bit of fresher air. I thought I'd take a little bit of time this morning to talk to you guys about Bitcoin and just kind of outline some of the reasons why I think it's really important for you guys to start paying attention and learning about this new technology, and just outlining some of the reasons why I think there's so much potential here and why I think that it's really critical that everyone starts to learn it, and why I think everyone should be holding Bitcoin in this current economic environment. With that being said, please subscribe to the channel, hit like on the video, and share it with some friends and family. It helps me get this info out there. It helps me wake up more and more people to what's going on. In my videos on my channel here, I really try and simplify some of the economic theory. I try and simplify finance and just make it accessible to more and more people. It's very overwhelming for a lot of people. And because of that reason, a lot of people just choose to bury their head in the sand when it comes to money. They don't want to take the time to learn it, and they don't want to take the time to become educated in it. And that's why we see so much like high debt levels and insolvency rates. It's because our financial literacy isn't that high. So I've really found it interesting, and I've taken the time over the last 20 years to learn it. And so I want to share with you guys what I've learned, because essentially it's not pretty what's going on. The government's, it's full on war, and it's covert, and they're essentially stealing our wealth. And all of this is very evident in the charts. So in some future videos, I'll make some videos where I show you guys the charts, and it really helps simplify and make it really clear about what's going on. But with that being said, I'm just going to talk a little bit about it in this video. And so some of the reasons why it's so important to learn about Bitcoin is that they're destroying our currencies. So if you don't know about Bitcoin, if you don't know about gold or silver, and you're not diversified, you're at the mercy of these government financial policies, and you're essentially going to lose your wealth as they destroy the currencies. So that's why I really take the time to make these videos. I want to help as many people as possible get out of the sinking ship. So there's only so many lifeboats. Bitcoin's one of them, silver's one of them, gold's one of them, and basically just get out of dollars. So many people have their life savings in these dollar terms, are dollar denominated assets like the stock market, and essentially you're at the mercy of the government printing and how they're destroying the currency through inflation. So as they print more and more of the currency, it loses its value because it's no longer hard to acquire. You don't have to even work for it. You can just, here in Canada, you just sit back on your couch and they send you $2,000 checks every month. And there's a lot of companies that can't even find employees because essentially no one wants to work anymore. Why would you work when you can just sit on the couch and collect a government check for $2,000? So they're really just destroying the currency. There's no actual value in the currencies. It's all just a matter of perception. We all perceive these dollars to have value, but there's no inherent intrinsic value in these pieces of plastic. Here in Canada, the money's actually made out of plastic, and they're even destroying cash, the war on cash. So a lot of it's just digital numbers in a bank account. And many of you might say, well, isn't Bitcoin just digital? And it is, but there's some major differences with Bitcoin. The main one being its fixed supply. So there's only 21 million Bitcoin. There only ever will be 21 million Bitcoin. So there's no way for any centralized body to come in and devalue that currency by printing more of it. So that's why so many of us are really bullish on Bitcoin. That's why we're spending so much time accumulating Bitcoin, because in my opinion, moving forward, as these governments print and print and print and counterfeit more of the currency, Bitcoin offers the best potential, in my opinion, because of its limited supply. And it's absolutely scarce. So there's only 21 million Bitcoin. Even gold, we're always going to be able to find more and more gold, even though it's getting harder. There is always more gold. It's just how much money it takes to mine it. And so the supply of gold will always have a small trickle in our small inflation. So the supply of it will always be increasing at a small rate. However, Bitcoin, there comes a point where there will be no more Bitcoin, and then the only way to get more of it is to buy it off somebody that already has it. So because of that design, Bitcoin offers one of the, if not the best solution or hedge against the devaluation of these dollars. So as we move forward and the governments continue to destroy the purchasing power of these dollars, and that's why you're seeing prices go just absolutely insane for any kind of real asset. You're seeing the prices of real estate go through the roof. You're seeing the price of stocks go through the roof. Even stuff like collectors' cars or fine art and stuff like that, or expensive wine. Any real assets are just increasing astronomically in value because the purchasing power of these dollars is getting destroyed while the governments flood the markets with this phony money per se. So this is a trend that will continue. It's the only way these policymakers know how to deal with this economic situation. They don't want to go through the flames per se, because the only way to really truly deal with this crisis is to let the whole thing implode, let the businesses that made bad business decisions go bankrupt, shake out all of the ones that were overextended on debt, the ones that didn't have, enough foresight to have savings in the bank. They didn't save for a rainy day, and they essentially were overextended. So in true free market capitalism, you would let these businesses fail, and that's how we are left with more resilient businesses. The businesses that make the best decisions are the ones that last long term. But when we have government bailouts and we're always subsidizing specific industries, it just makes the whole market phony. And that way, any business can survive. Anybody can survive, because you always have a bailout waiting for you. And essentially, there's no need to actually put any forethought into the way you're going to manage your money or whatever. And so if we look at all that and we look at how everyone's invested in real estate, it's all highly leveraged. We have certain cycles that are coming into play. So we have all the boomers wanting to retire, downsize, start to sell off some of their assets to fund their retirement. And then we have the younger generations that have no money. So a lot of the boomers are going to go and sell their real estate. But who are they going to sell to? We have foreign money drying up, especially with the borders closed with this whole pandemic. And then we have a broke generation that has no money. We have banks tightening up their lending policies and all that. So that's, to me, that puts some downward pressure on the real estate market. And the whole real estate market is highly leveraged. Most of it is bought with debt. And then if you look at something like Bitcoin, a very small portion of the Bitcoin market is actually purchased with debt. Most people are buying it with actual cash they have. So it's not as fragile per se, because it's not at the mercy of government rates, interest rates, that kind of stuff. And it's also not at the mercy of the economy as much, because when something's on leverage, then basically you're really vulnerable to the economy, because you've agreed to a minimum monthly payment with the banks. And with Bitcoin, if you're not highly leveraged, if you're not, buying $500,000 worth of an investment that's 80 to 90% of it's on debt, and you've agreed to make these minimum monthly payments, Well, that's really putting you at the mercy of the economy, because if the economy tanks and all of a sudden you can't afford those minimum monthly payments, well, you have to foreclose on your home. You have to go bankrupt. You have to sell. You're forced to sell that asset. So even though you might have worked on it and put all your money into it for the last 10 or 20 years, if you can't make those monthly payments for a month or 2 or 3 months, then basically you lose that home. So that's the beauty of Bitcoin, is that the market isn't highly leveraged. So you can come in and you could buy $100 worth of Bitcoin and you would always have that amount of Bitcoin. And it doesn't matter if you're not buying it on leverage, on debt, then if you buy that with cash you actually made and then you put it into a holding, well, you're not really at the mercy of anything. It doesn't matter if the value crashes 90%. You can just sit on that asset. There's no minimum monthly payments. There's no cost to hold it or maintain it, opposed to a real estate where there's huge fees associated with it. There's property tax, there's maintenance, there's all kinds of stuff like that, your utilities, and also the interest payments on your loan. So it's really expensive to hold an asset like real estate. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin, that essentially it doesn't cost any money to hold and you can buy any amount you like. So to me, it makes a lot of sense in this environment to hedge against the inflation. Uh, Bitcoin, in my opinion, is very cheap right now. Uh, I think it's going to go much higher as we have just crazy turmoil in the financial markets. As these governments continue to devalue the dollars, more and more people will be looking to get out. And if we look at somewhere like Venezuela, we can see what happens when the governments just print and print and print. It essentially causes hyperinflation, and eventually the whole country completely goes bust as the dollars no longer hold any purchasing power whatsoever. People were bringing in wheelbarrows of cash to buy a loaf of bread. And I know that sounds absolutely insane, but it is actually quite possible in places like the US and in places like Canada. I know it seems pretty far-fetched, but it's very possible when these governments are just printing the money out of thin air, and there's clearly no sign that they're slowing down either. So the dollars are devaluing at astronomical levels, and there's very few assets right now are ways to hedge against that inflation. Some of the only ways are gold, silver, and Bitcoin, and all of those, the reason for those is that they're limited in supply. And the one that's limited the most in supply is, of course, Bitcoin, as it has a fixed supply. It's the only thing in the world that we know that has a completely fixed supply. So once the 21 million Bitcoin are mined, that's it. There's no more. It's not like gold where you can just keep finding more and more deposits of gold and mining it, which changes the supply. And if you know about economics, you know about the supply and demand chart. And so you can see when there's no more supply, if there's more demand, you know what that means. It means the price goes up. So that's basically some of the beauties of Bitcoin. It also offers a ton of utility in the sense of being able to have full control of your own capital. So even though you might think you have your money in the bank, you think it's yours, it actually isn't yours. Go and try and move around $10,000 or $20,000. You'll quickly see that you need all kinds of permission. They won't let you withdraw it from your bank account, even if you have $1 million. They'll limit you to $2,000 a day withdraw. So really, is it your money? Do you have control of it when they have so much say over what you can and can't do with your own currency? Try and move some of your money on a Sunday. It's just not going to happen. With something like Bitcoin, I could move $1 billion across the world almost instantaneously, very little fees, and with no one's permission. So you can see where Bitcoin offers a lot of utility. And another beauty about it is it's completely decentralized. So it's not owned by any one government. It's basically an international currency in a sense. And Bitcoin knows no borders. It's permissionless. It's absolute in supply. So in my opinion, it's a beautiful thing where we can become more sovereign in our own lives. We can choose to take control. We can choose another money. Essentially, we don't have to use these government currencies. So in the past, they've had us backed into corners where we had no choice but to use these currencies and be at the mercy of their inflation and their devaluation, which is essentially a hidden tax, a hidden way in which they steal our wealth. But now we have alternatives. We have a way to diversify and to own something like Bitcoin that essentially can't be devalued through their economic policy. And we no longer need their permission to be able to transact with it. So that to me just is just an amazing thing. I love technology, how it's always advancing and changing our world around us. I think it's really going to be like the internet, where in the beginning, a lot of people were unsure that it would even take off. They didn't see the value in it. They thought people were crazy for building online stores, and now look where we are. So it's kind of the same idea where it's a new technology and it takes people a long time to start to understand it, to comprehend where the value is, and to essentially see where it's going. So I think there's a lot of people that are kind of early to this call, or the people that a lot of them, like me, I've been studying money for 20 years. So that's why I think I kind of became interested in Bitcoin before some of the other people. And I think, right now we're seeing more the early adopters of Bitcoin, the people that, a lot of people I know, they're either accountants or they're into finance. They have some kind of background in money or investing, and that's why they see the value now. And that's why the general public still doesn't quite see the value, because a lot of them don't necessarily understand finance and money and how it works, and so they don't necessarily see the value there. But I I really strongly do believe that there's just huge potential in Bitcoin. Of course, this isn't investment advice, but I do highly recommend that you start learning about it, and just get yourself set up with an account. Learn how to buy it, how to store it, how to transfer it around. And just by doing that, at least you are learning the skills where if this inflation really starts to take off, you have the ability to get out of a sinking ship. So you will be ahead of the curve in the sense that you'll already be set up with an account. You'll already know how to safely move it and store it. So my recommendation to you is that you just start with $100, or whatever you're comfortable with, $1,000. It really depends on your economic situation, but just start with something small that you're comfortable with, that you wouldn't, if you mess up, that maybe you're fine with losing that amount. So that way it just teaches you the technology, it teaches you how to use it, and then you'll be so much further ahead than the masses. And you essentially want to have your exit strategy as they completely destroy these dollars. So make no mistake, there is no way around this destruction of the dollars. I've been studying economic theory for 20 years, like I said, and they're really backed into a corner here. There's no way to recover from what they're doing to the currencies. So that essentially means we need to start planning our exit strategy. Unless you want to ride the devaluation of these currencies to the ground, you want to hold everything in these dollars as they completely lose their purchasing power. Then you have to start exploring alternatives, and you have to know how to buy them, how to store them, and all of that. So it's my recommendation to you that you take the time to do that and you become financially educated in that sense. Yeah, just start learning about the technology. It really is a fantastic thing. In my opinion, it is a tool that's going to offer us liberation in a sense. It's the first time that money has been separated from state, and that is a big deal. I know a lot of people don't understand why it's a big deal, but it's a massive deal because they've always controlled us and enslaved us by having control of our money system. And so this is the first time that we've taken the power out away from these governments, and we've put the power into the people's hands. So anyone who owns Bitcoin essentially owns a part of the network, and essentially you're empowering yourself by owning a part of the financial system. So traditionally, the banking system and that only has been owned and controlled by really wealthy elite families. And now this new decentralized system, this technology, has offered a way for us to have a piece of the pie as just common folk. So that's a pretty big deal. It's super exciting in my opinion. That's why I think everyone should own a little bit of Bitcoin, and it's just really, in my opinion, it's a way that we can vote for our own freedom. It's a way that we're saying, look, enough is enough. We're done being controlled. We're done being robbed. We're done with you guys leeching off of our backs. Go get a job. You know, you quit taxing me and stealing all of my wealth. If you want to create wealth for yourself, go get a job like the rest of us. I'm done feeding you and your family. So by embracing something like Bitcoin, we take the power back and we put the power into our own hands. And essentially, eventually, hopefully, if we all embrace it and that, we can create a bit of a new system. And there's no way for these elites to just leech off of our back and constantly be stealing our wealth. And that's the way that they traditionally have had these luxurious lives, and they don't even really work. They just basically, you know, act as our overlords, steal our wealth, and then use it to do whatever they want in their own life. So what I'm saying is, let's ditch that system. Let's take back the power. Let's put it into our own hands, create prosperity for our own families and our communities. And that way we can be more resilient in ourselves and in our communities, and we can quit giving our power away and our capital away to these corrupt governments, these corrupt elite families that are they really don't have the best intentions with all of this. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that makes sense to you guys. I'll make some future videos about this. Let me know in the comments if there's anything that's confusing to you or your thoughts on it. Future videos you might want to see, and I'll really make an effort this fall to get some more people on the channel and to make some more videos where I show you guys charts and stuff. It really helps to clarify a lot of this information and put it all into perspective so that you guys can get kind of a bigger picture about what's going on in these markets, so that you can make the best financial decisions possible and that you can create and protect your wealth moving forward and stop giving it away to these corrupt elite politicians, bankers, corporations, all of that fun stuff. I hope you guys enjoy the video, and I'll see you in the next one.